I have a slide up on my screen for my colleague, Michael Rowe, who's going to show us some fun things. Michael, whenever you are ready, you can take over the screen.
Great. So yeah, I'm going to be going into, as the slide shows, Power BI integration with the QualiWare API. Now this is actually, there's a number of processes to it. So before we dive into the technicals of it, let's look at some of the business value. So I'm going to share my screen and go through a little bit of a presentation on that. So, okay, can you see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is, again, the same diagram just to show that we're going to be, the goal is to get Power BI into our QualiWare architecture to get insights on QualiWare data. And so, again, the value of this is to get business insights on QualiWare information, so we don't have to reuse our business logic while, leveraging the power of Power BI and allowing better access to, or let's just say alternative options for doing modeling, because QualiWare certainly has its strengths for large-scale modeling in your existing ecosystem. Okay, so why do we do this? Some of the first reasons are we can get live data. So these are not snapshots of your QualiWare data when you're in your Power BI reports. This is live refreshes of your data that you can have access to in real time so that you can make faster decision making. You can get additional visibility. So obviously you have your QualiWare visibility to your repository and your QualiWare integrations, but by using Power BI, we have different visibility options for showing our models. We can also improve our collaboration. These reports can be, you can use your Microsoft ecosystem to take these reports, share them across your team or to other teams, and so that you can easily share your reports that show your QualiWare data, and you can then show that within QualiWare, that same Power BI report, and you can even share externally to your organization. Although I'll go into the different approaches to doing that. Obviously, there are some privacy trade-offs to sharing externally, but then you can still have your QualiWare report from QualiWare's API as you can still have your QualiWare data in a Power BI report and share that externally as a public URL. So again, because we're doing this automated process of reusing our business logic and easily importing it into Power BI, we're reducing our work, right? We're automating the process, reducing errors, saving time, and getting better analysis. So less manual work on that. Okay. So this is a screenshot of the report that was prepared. This was prepared by our new intern at CloseReach, Nathan Montpremier. So I wanted to say thank you to Nathan for preparing the report. He did a great job with that. I will show the report live in a moment. But as you can see, this is a screenshot right from Power BI. It has access to various QualiWare fields. And there's much more than that. You can access any object in your repository. You can create. You can access not just so you can reuse your business logic by accessing generic queries. That QualiWare's API allows that, but you can also run QSQL queries to, for example, in this case, we're getting all of the project objects. And we're going to then use Power BI to filter on that based on on names, dates, and whatnot. So some of the key features and functionality of this, again, is that it allows you to search and filter QualiWare model data from Power BI. And then you can create and manage custom Power BI dashboards. Anybody familiar with Power BI knows that you can easily swap from one chart to another. So there is a great amount of power in that. You can link reports to specific architecture objects or diagrams, any objects within your repository, including governance history. So you can see here, this is some of the governance fields. On this audit CM is the name of the person who had changed that particular object, as well as that would be the change name, the modified name, or sorry, the creation name, audit creation name, modified name, and the current approval state of that object. This is governance history, as well as other fields for that object. And again, you can embed these reports live within your QualiWare web views. So that is very powerful. As you'll see, it's easy to integrate. You can make them secure and private to your organization or public and have them live. Through this, by having this access, you can monitor the performance metrics tied to your processes or capabilities. You can export and share filtered insights across teams, drill down into detailed model attributes directly from reports. So you have that, you have full access to the Power BI report from QualiWare, so you can do you have all of the functionality to filter right from your web page. And then again, you can, as another use case, you could track changes and trends over time with visual history and analysis. So yeah, there's a lot to it. And I do want to mention that this presentation is also on using QualiWare's API in general. So imagine that you can also take some of these endpoints and apply it to other integrations. I'd like you to just keep that in mind, because yeah, the sky's the limit. So before I go into the demonstration, I do want to mention that I've also prepared, and I've shared to some of our clients, a documentation, which is, I'll show just for a moment, but it really goes through a step-by-step how to set up this process, break it down, so you know exactly what you need to do to get to the end goal. And I'll just show you that document for a moment. So this, as you can see, it goes everything from software installation. We use Postman. So Postman is a tool for testing APIs. So I'll go into that a little bit as well. Installing Power BI, setting up Postman, and some of the settings that you have limitations on. So one thing I want to point out is that so from my knowledge, not every environment has to do this, but you might need to disable a particular setting in your app services for your web application, which is to click allow on unauthenticated access. Now, you might be wondering if that's a problem, right? So first of all, bear in mind that you will still have QualiWare's authentication. So you're not removing authentication to your QualiWare website. There will still be full authentication. In addition, you can enhance the security of your web application by applying a couple of Azure services. One's called Azure Private Link. The other one is called Azure API Management. And not Azure Private Link, Azure Front Door or API Management. That's beyond the scope of this guide, but I just wanted to let you know that those are some of the other options you can do. But again, there is security even if you have to disable this setting. Okay.
Michael, Mike
yes.
Hart, there is somebody with their hand up. Mike Hart, did you have a question?
Yes, Mike.
Yes, just a short question, Michael, because I know that we can link Power BI to QualiWare so that we can access QualiWare reports. But I think what I'm understanding is that we can go back and forth, right?
That's right.
Because although QualiWare can make charts, it's great at making charts. Power BI, that's their thing, and so there's a lot of different things that Power BI can do
Mhm.
that we won't necessarily be able to do in QualiWare. But this
That's right.
allows the opportunity to just continuously, you're putting your data into QualiWare and it continuously goes to Power BI and then links back again.
That's right,
If you,
exactly.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And of course, QualiWare has their own integration options. So, for example, you can also, QualiWare allows you to access external data sets. So this approach is using, first of all, being outside of QualiWare, accessing data within QualiWare. But you can also do the reverse, where perhaps there's a data source you're using for your Power BI reports. You can directly do a data source connection to that from QualiWare and pull that data in as well. So you actually have bi-directional communication between Power BI and QualiWare. So yes, it's fully integrated. Okay, so going back to this document, and I'll just go quickly through it. It goes into setting up Power BI, some of the examples of using and there's particular ways to set up the code, transform your data, how you need to enter your website domain, your username and password. It goes into all of that and how to set up the code. Putting your repository ID, configuration ID, lays it all out for you. Additionally, you do need to set up, this is important, I'll just go over this quickly. So you do need to set up a particular way of connecting. You need to choose anonymous connection in Power BI, and usually organization is what your organization is set to. And that will allow you to connect to QualiWare's API for your particular organization. And from there, then you can do your queries to access QualiWare's data and start to prepare your reports. So, and there are some particularities of it. So I invite you to look at this document to see some of those particular ways you might need to transform your data. As people know that who are familiar with preparing reports in Power BI, sometimes you need to, for example, unlock, QualiWare might return a record, which is an object, and you need to do a particular transform to get the underlying parameters behind it. And this explains how to do such an example. Okay, so let's go over to the demonstration on this. And of course, if there's any questions, please enter them into the chat or just raise your hand. Okay, so now I'm over in Power BI, and you can see all of this data that I've been able to attain, and it actually, what I can show you is that I had to write a number of queries, and the code returned back basically JSON, a JSON structure, and then you can use Power BI to clean it up into a nice table, right? So in this case, this particular query, as you see here, it's actually using one of QualiWare's APIs called GenericQuery. So this is how you can reuse your business logic. You don't have to, you can design all of your logic within QualiWare and then not have to redo that work in Power BI. You can recreate the reports or, build off of your existing reports and queries within QualiWare. And this is how you would do it using this particular endpoint called GetGenericQuery full. And what this one does is it actually returns, well, I'll just show you in QualiWare. I think that's even easier. So it's actually, this is, anybody familiar with our discovery repository, you might see that this is the compliance management page. We have a particular report called the workflow diagram status. And this has the particular, states of a particular workflow. And, there's a duplicate here, but as you can see, that it shows a nice chart of the different states that a chart might have. And you'll see that it has well, sorry. So if you see, I'm going to go into QLM for a moment. Apologies if I'm jumping around too much, but this is the generic query for that actual report. So the report calls this generic query with this object ID. So why is that important? Well, actually, you can do the same thing in Power BI to call this particular generic query by supplying this object ID to it, or you can also do the same in Postman. And the reason I'm showing you Postman is just, this is an easy way before you get into Power BI of making sure that you're actually executing your queries correctly before you get it, because it's a lot simpler to use. So again, this is the same object ID. It's that get generic query endpoint, again on discovery. I'm actually using some environment variables, and I do invite you to, if you're doing any development in here, save your session IDs, and you can save your variables like configuration IDs for particular repositories and the session ID. And well, I can tell you what the session ID is. So basically, when you first connect to QualiWare, you need to run what's called a login endpoint, and it gives you a session ID that you see here at the bottom. So what I've done is in Postman, I've stored it into I've run a particular script that I'm not going to go to the body, but it actually passes your username and password to QualiWare. It logs you in, it returns a session ID, and this session ID is needed in all future endpoint calls. So that's kind of the process. You call the login, you get your response with the session ID, and then you call your next endpoint. For example, get generic query. And then I've stored that session ID, and now I will show you for an example of calling this particular endpoint. So now this endpoint is going to take that session ID for a particular repository and configuration, take the object ID, and return back all of that JSON for all of your projects. And if you notice, this is actually the same data that it was here. It's the exact same data for it. Sorry. Yes, this one's the exact same data for this. And then again, it's cleaned up. And as you can see this, so I didn't prepare a report on this particular one, but I will show you the report and the data underlying it. But you can just see that, again, these are some of the names of the different states. You can see the count of the objects that are in those states. So there's 5, 113, and 2. And if you look over here, you should see the state. So approved, development, and finish, which is, if you look back at this, that's what this chart is showing. You can see the numbers will add up to those particular states. So let's go back to Power BI. So you can see again that I have one particular query calling this endpoint to use your existing business logic to call the get generic query endpoint for that previous report. But again, you can use QSQL to call and get for example, all of your projects. So this is all of the projects in the repository. You can see the names of the projects, the template, all of the information that's filled in for that particular object. And I've done some transformations on this to get the underlying parameters, but again, I go into that in the description, in the documentation for that. So there you go. And so let's switch over to Power BI to the report itself. So this is a couple of reports that I prepared on. Oh, sorry, again, Nathan has prepared on. I prepared some other reports. This one he did on the project information. So here we have information like the short description, start and end dates. You can filter. He's put some filters that you can change. This is all dynamic. You can switch by person, and it will just show the objects that that you modified, and so these are all the ones that I've modified. Remove those filters, and you can basically select that for anybody that has accessed or worked on this particular repository. Check change by state. Look at all the information you want. Look at a particular object ID. And of course, you still have access to Power BI's ability to change the reports on the fly. You could select a report and change it. Now I'm not going to do that. It might break something, but it's often quite easy to take a particular chart and change it into, for example, a pie chart. So that's very powerful about Power BI. And if you want to change the fields, you have access to all of your QualiWare data right here. So for example, here's some of the fields in that particular generic query. Here is some fields that were filtered on. And here's the full list of project fields that you could add in and make new reports on. So now we have a report. So what are we going to do with it? How do we get into QualiWare, right? How do we get our QualiWare business logic back inside so that our QualiWare users can view these Power BI reports and make use of them? So the one way is that you can share. You can make a link. So you'll see I'm not signed in, but if you're signed in, you can share within your organization, and you can manage the access of who within your organization you want to be able to see that report. And that's very important, because even if the user has access to the repository, they don't have access to the report that you've made. So you need to make sure that any users you want to be able to see the report within the repository, you manage the access for them. You can also publish it to the web, and actually that's done through the again, there's a way that you can do it here, and because I'm not signed in, I'm not going to do that. But by publishing, you can share it as a public URL, which you can also put in QualiWare. But again, there is a chance that your business data might be exposed to third parties. So just take that in mind. Okay, so let's switch over to QualiWare now. Now you might be this is actually our previous report that we've shown. This is a public report. So this did not use any QualiWare data. This was just a report that was created and integrated into QualiWare. And that's great as well. It allows you to build your reports. It might not be tied to QualiWare necessarily, but it allows you to then publish them and share them within QualiWare. Now, the new solution is, and I apologize, it's just I made a basic chart here, but is you can link to the report from one of your fields, usually the description. So you might have a model, and in that model you can highlight it or click on it, and you can see the description that has the link to your Power BI report. If you do so, it will prompt you to sign in because you're not authenticated yet. And the good news is it should just detect your single sign-on for your account and give you access to the report right from QualiWare. So again, you have full functionality just as before. There's also you can have other reports. This one, for example, is some analytics on the owner as opposed to by projects by ID. So you can break down that information and have a nice way to integrate within QualiWare. So other than that, there are other ways you can call QualiWare's API from Power BI. So I'll just quickly show you some of the operations. And I know this is a long list, but you'll be able to access, this is part of the documentation package. It's also, if you've used QDO extended before, which I'll just show you for a moment. This is QDO extended. It's a way to test using QualiWare's API from your browser. And it has various examples of some of the calls you can do. It shows you easy ways to try out the API, getting configuration data, getting object data, and by doing so, you can make sure that the API calls you make within Power BI and within Postman are done properly, and you can test in that manner. So often what I'll do is I'll try out an API call from QDO extended, then I'll inspect it to see what parameters it's passing. Then I'll go over to Postman and pass those same parameters and make the call, make sure it's executing properly, and then I'll make it in Power BI. And so, yeah, that's kind of the process that I go into. And again, yeah, so there's a large list of API calls. You can pass your data as JSON. You can pass it as XML. You can find objects, filter by objects, do QSQL calls, find what links to an object, for example. Really, the possibilities are endless of what you can do in terms of making your business logic for Power BI accessing your QualiWare data. Yeah, so that's about it. I think if there are any questions, please feel free to let me know. But thank you.
So this was a pretty technical presentation, everyone. So if there are any requirements for us to show you at a higher level, sort of how some of this will work, or at a lower, more detailed level with some of your internal technical people, we have no problems with setting up meetings to do that.
Thank you.
That's right.
So we do have a few questions. So Michael, great presentation. You captured everybody's attention, because here we are at 4:30 and everybody's still on the call.
Good, good.
So I see, Hisham, you had your hand raised. Did you want to start? And then I do see that there's something in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
This was amazing. Is it possible you share with us this API integration documentation, if it's possible, and some examples of the Power BI queries?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, I've prepared a documentation package, and includes this this document, which again shows you everything from preparing your queries, the whole process, setting up Azure, working in Postman. And in this package, I've also included some sample queries as well. A query for how to set up your GenericQuery endpoint within Power BI. Also, the query for transforming that data, and also a query for a QSQL query, and how to transform that QSQL query. So I've actually included 4 different code samples for you. Yeah, and then how to publish it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike.
You're welcome. Yes.
Magget, does that answer your question as well? There is documentation, yes.
Yes, yes. We have everything you need, I think, in terms of preparing the documentation. But yes, of course, if you have the documentation, you still have questions, please feel free to reach out, and we can arrange something to give further guidance on how to go forward with using the tool.
So one of the key areas we see for this, because we see a lot of people document a lot of processes. So taking a look at all of those processes that are across my organization and trying to gather, some statistical information, some relationship information across all of that. That kind of analysis can be done quite easily in Power BI. So, being able to pull those, and we have lots of organizations with 800 and 1,000 processes. To do those, to analyze some of that information or query some of that in different ways in QualiWare can be difficult. So we see Power BI as a way to help analyze your repository and help you understand, the information that is there and how you might use it more effectively.
Carol,
Thanks,
you
Michael.
got your hand. You have your hand up. Carol, did you have something?
But Kevin jumps in all over the place and stole my idea. Okay, Kevin, you said exactly what I was gonna say. But in reality, our team have spent a lot of time on getting this integration to the condition where we can say, listen, here is the complete integration. Here is the complete documentation, guys. Take it and essentially maximize the potential and the benefit from having the Power BI and QualiWare stacked together. So yeah, thank you.
And
I guess you were.
I guess there is one other piece to this as well. Figuring out how to use the open API capabilities within QualiWare to actually test and generate, the JSON and things like that are coming through some of this. So, and again, modeling those interfaces within QualiWare so that everybody understands what is available that they can use, within their organization. So
That's right.
great.
Yeah, and absolutely, the integration features that QualiWare are bringing out are going to continue to develop and improve, and so who knows, maybe something in 10.10 might help. Yeah, I think the power of this is going to continue to grow and benefit all of its users.